It's late in the evening, glass on the side, I've been sad with you.
Okay, thanks, Aaron. I must say, as a coffee lover, the coffee here is really good. I didn't try the desserts yet, but I'm very much looking forward. How does this work? I don't know what to do. Help me. Help me. Oh, there we go. Okay. So last year at this same event, I got super inspired and excited with the like-minded people. I think I ended up tweeting a lot about the desserts that I ate and how I'm planning to change my title from a coordinator. Why is it moving? What is happening? I hate technology. So I'm just going to talk. Okay. So I really wanted to change my title from a coordinator to a content curator, because we all know that that's the key now. But can I change this now? Yes. As you can see from my title, that change didn't happen. But what I also ended up doing last year, because of the discussion, like Aaron said, I wrote a blog post about what we discussed. It's there. I recently just tweeted it as well, so you'll find it on my Twitter. And in that blog post, I basically shared how I feel about working with bloggers, why I think we should still be working with them, how I think that there are bloggers that you maybe shouldn't be working with. There are still tons of the good ones that you just need to find. In the same post, I shared my pet peeves with working with bloggers, which is basically bad language, incorrect spelling of Finland. That happens a lot more than you think of. And pitches that don't convince anyone that you should just delete completely. And that's basically why I'm here, sharing why we at Visit Finland work with bloggers and influencers. And I'll tell a little bit about what we've done with influencers recently, mostly what I've learned from all that. And since I feel like for a lot of businesses and DMOs, the finding the good ones and the figuring of how to work with them and what to want from them is the biggest challenge. So I'm going to be focusing on that. You'll notice photos. All of those photos are taken by the influencers, bloggers, and Instagrammers that I worked with within the past year. I've enjoyed working with all of them, and I would highly recommend working with any of them if given the chance. So yeah, as we are all professionals of the field, I don't think we need to spend a lot of time discussing should we work with bloggers in general, since we all know that they're relevant. But I do want to take a minute to kind of define what we're talking about. Since there are so many bloggers out there, I think that quite often, still when we think of a blog, we think of a 17-year-old girl posting her outfit photos on this scrappy-looking blogspot platform, which in reality is only a very narrow part of what bloggers are these days. Most of the blogs are more like platforms or sites or even online magazines that have a lot more than just crappy photos. They vary from very hobby-like tips and notes to very, very professional photos and videos and stories. They vary from tips and practical information of how to do something to very deep and reflective personal stories. So the whole range of blogs is very wide. But the key word, I think, is professional. Since many of the bloggers are still doing that as a hobby, and I don't judge that, I think the ones that we should be focusing on is specifically the professional ones, the ones that really want to put effort into it and want to get something out of it as well. I saw a number that last year there was pretty much like 75 million WordPress blogs out there, which is a crap ton. And then there's all the YouTube accounts and all the Twitters and all the Instagram accounts, which makes it to a very large sum of influencers, which makes it even harder to find the good ones that are there. But we're going to be focusing on the professional ones so that we can kind of stay in our nice bubble and think that all the bloggers are nice and worth working with, just so that we don't lose our minds. But you also notice that I keep referring to influencers and not just bloggers. And that's because I don't think that we should be working with just bloggers, as I think Instagrammers and bloggers and Twitter influencers are significant as well. They work all in very different ways. Some of the parts that they do are very similar, but some of them also vary quite a bit, and so does the outcome. But I think that they should all be included in the group of influencers that we want to work with. What is next? Okay, a few words of what we've done recently. We started working with bloggers in 2011 when Keith from Velvet Escape reached out to my colleagues and they planned a trip for him to see the Northern Lights, and it all kind of spiraled down from there. The way that we're doing things these days is mainly organized by my colleague who paved the way to where we are now, so I basically get to dance on the very nice road. Thank you for my colleagues. But this is what we've done recently. We do individual trips all the time for influencers, and we have done other campaigns as well. But these are one of the 3 big ones that have been done recently. Nordic Bloggers Experience was done last year and this year as well, together with the travel fair Visit Helsinki, from which Elizabeth is over there, and then a third party, Innastus. This is where we had 47 travel bloggers and influencers from specifically chosen markets. We had an open call for the influencers, and then we chose from them who we wanted to work with. All of those influencers that we had, they had almost 2.5 million followers. So quite a big amount of people that we wanted to reach. Of the campaign that we had this January, the Twitter reach was over 4 million. So far, over 100 blog posts have been shared. And since this happened in January, there's still a lot more content to be out there. And the campaign itself, the concept was so that we flew the people to 11 different destinations, both in Finland and Sweden, for a couple of days to experience what the winter in Finland is like. We had activities for them, food and sauna, obviously, it's Finland after all. And then after experiencing the wilderness or different cities, we flew them back to Helsinki for the travel fair, for seminars that were specifically targeted for them, of specific topics like how to do videos, how to improve your photography, how to make money out of your blog, and things like that. And then they obviously had time to explore Helsinki on their own. Then Outdoors Finland we did last year, together with Innastus as well. We had 27 bloggers coming to Finland from mainly UK markets such as Germany, Netherlands, Italy, UK. The Twitter reach for that was over 3 million. There was over 100 blog posts that got shared from that brief August that they were in Finland. There's over 16 videos, which I'm very happy about because we didn't instruct them to do video at all. That was a total surprise. We knew that some of them are active in video sphere, but that was totally their own creation. And in the campaign, we had 4 specific regions in Finland where we sent them for about 4 days to do outdoorsy things that were planned together with local partners, so that they would do like swimming and sauna and berry picking and canoeing and all sorts of outdoorsy things. Eric is one of the bloggers that was there, so he can tell you how amazing Finland is in the summer. And then recently, we also did an Instagram trip. For us, Instagram is fairly new. We all active on Instagram, obviously, but recently we discovered that we get a lot more requests for Instagram trips. So we partnered with Taipale Brothers, who are these Finnish Instagrammers, brothers as well, but very well known in Finnish Instagram circles. They, with themselves, went up to Lapland with 7 other Instagrammers for a week, reached over 2 million people, got over 60 million impressions, and the area in general, everyone's very happy. But what was very exciting about this project was that we also partnered with the photographers in a sense that we got photos from them. Not just that they will, put their photos in their channels and we can share from them, but we also got actual photos from our image banks. Yes. So the reason why we work with influencers is obviously good SEO, but even more than that, I think just the general knowledge of Finland. Nancy said earlier that a lot of people are like, so what's in Alberta? It's very much the same with Finland. What is in Finland? Every time someone writes a blog post about, I went to Finland and this, and this, and this, someone will comment there saying, oh, I never thought of Finland as a travel destination. Or I never thought that Finland has summer. I never thought that Finnish winter would be, you could survive there. Which I think it's great in a sense that our message is slowly but surely getting across, but it also shows that there's still a lot more work to be done so that people will know that, Finland is the destination. Summers are warm. Sometimes it's cold, but usually it's warm. But yeah. A few things to be said about our role, in a sense, since we are the official tourism organization of Finland. The way we work in terms of trips, for example, is that we usually get the influencers to Finland and then we work with the regional partners because they know the local things way better than I do. There's no way of me knowing of all the amazing areas you can go to Finland and what specifically to do there. So that's why we work very closely with instances like Visit Helsinki or Visit Rovaniemi or all these different areas who have the local expertise so that they can suggest for me to send forward to the influencers like, okay, here's what we suggest that you could do in this area. Okay, so the things that happened before the trip, the choosing of the bloggers, we at Visit Finland, we're at fortunate state in terms of I don't really have to reach out to influencers because they reach out to me. On an average day, I get about 10 emails from influencers asking if they can come to Finland for a trip, which is great in a sense. But I also do research on influencers if there's a specific niche that we want to cover. But most of the time just go through all of these different emails and proposals and pitches of who are the ones that we should be working with. So these are the first three things that I look for when I'm looking at an influencer. First is media kit. I think everyone should have a media kit, and if you don't, you're out of the game. But a media kit essentially has the number of unique page views you have, some numbers of your social channels, possibly some referrals, some examples what you've done recently. But it should be there. I don't think page views and numbers like that are the most important thing. But I still need to know them. No matter what the number is, I still need to have it. Then the followers, I need to know who they are, especially if they are mostly bloggers or regular travelers. I think it's great that the travel blogging community is very supportive and very strong in a sense that bloggers will like and share and comment each other's posts. But the day when a travel blogger comes to Finland on their own, just to experience without asking for me from free stuff, that's not going to happen. So if the travel blogger only reaches other bloggers, that's when I sort of start to question. In a sense, if I look at a blogger's social media channels and I know all of the likers from different conferences and I know that they're bloggers as well, I start to question who you are able to reach. But on the other hand, if I look at your social channels and no one of the people that I know is following you, that means that I think either you're not very connected, which is also okay, or that you don't know how social media works. But it's all about doing a lot more research than we're doing these days, just so that we get all the info that we can about the influencers. Then the SEO. Since, like I said, Finland is unfortunately not that well known as a destination, a big part of the people that we get to Finland is from Google research. They type Northern Lights and then they end up to our sites in Finland, or they type something else then head to Finland. So that's why the visibility of the bloggers in Google is very important to us. And usually when I'm doing a research on someone, I try to type in different topics that they've written about. If I know that they've been to Spain and done food tours, I might type in Spain food tour blog. And if this specific blogger's blog post doesn't come up on the first 3 pages, I find it very alarming. Since no one these days on Google has the energy to go through page 3, if it's not on the first couple of pages, no one is ever going to see it. No one is ever going to find it like normally on a search engine, which it worries me because, you know, the visibility on Google is very important. Okay, there you can see the Northern Lights. How wonderful. Brand. This is very important, especially for Visit Finland, since our brand is very, it's not strict in a sense, but we are very careful of kind of, how to say it, protecting the brand in a sense that we want to work with influencers and bloggers who understand our brand and who fit the brand very well. That said, we all have target audiences that may be geographical, they may be specific countries. For example, for us recently, it has been China and Japan growingly, but it might also be sort of style of travel. The people that we want to reach are well-traveled, well-educated, they are looking for unique and genuine experiences. Usually they are willing to put a lot of money to experience something out of this world, like the glass igloos there. So a backpacking blog doesn't necessarily do it for us if all of your followers are backpackers. But then again, there are different cases, so it all depends. But that said, I think when choosing a blogger or an influencer, you have to be very careful of does it fit your brand, or is it possible that this person could also do harm for your brand? Since the influencers that we work with should embrace the brand. I mean, obviously, we don't want to force them to do things that fit us and not necessarily them, but they should still somehow kind of match. And social media. These days, if a blogger is not on any social media channels, that raises huge question marks for me. Obviously, every influencer has channels that he or she is most active on or knows better than others, which is fine, but I still think that all of the channels should have quality content that should be uploaded frequently. They should be sharing their own stuff over and over again. So if a blogger comes to Finland and shares his article once and then it's never there again, I'm not a huge fan, let's put it that way. So in that sense, these days, for example, we are looking for bloggers who are also active on Instagram, or Instagrammers who also write, or vloggers who also freelance for specific newspapers, so that there's collaboration between these different channels so that the message gets across even better. You'll see writing there, that's my favorite. As I said earlier, bad language is my pet peeve. There are very few cases where I think bad language can be excused as a style decisions, but otherwise, bad language, hell no, no. Aside from the post that people write, I see the first email that I get from an influencer as a writing sample. So if that email has, on the subject line, it has, "To whom this may concern," or "Dear Sir," come on, my name is 3 letters, EVA, and if you know my first name and my last name since you wrote that email, you know my name. You can spell it in an email. It doesn't have to be "Dear Sir." I'm sorry. If it has, Finland misspelled, yeah, like Nancy said earlier, you kind of want to work with influencers who are very passionate about your product. You don't want to work with someone who just sends these generic emails to all of the destinations or all of the businesses saying, "Hey, I'm a blogger, can I come?" Because why? You're not going to get anything out of it. Yeah, I mean, I know people sometimes misspell things. I do that too. But the first email it's an impression that it kind of sticks. So I really wish that influencers would put a little more effort into that. It's kind of like when you're applying for a job and you really want to focus on the cover letter, whereas these days influencers just send like, "Hey, I have this channel and I would really like to come. Please let me know what we can do." Yeah, we're not going to do anything. But speaking of the first emails and pitches, these are all 3 that I've received within the past year, varying from the worst of the worst When it's worse, it's like this. It's like, hey, to whom this may concern, my name is blogger, blah, blah, blah. My blog is called X. I write about luxury. I mean, who doesn't? Would you be interested in a partnership? Let me know. I was like, yeah. I mean, who doesn't like food and luxury? We all do. But that doesn't really interest me. It doesn't really tell me anything about your channel, what you'd like to do, anything. I'm going to save the best one to last, so I'm going to talk about this next. Recently, I've discovered that a lot of bloggers kind of like to refer to each other. So I've received a lot of this from bloggers saying that, hey, my blogger friend came to Finland and he or she really liked it. I would like to do the same things. Let me know. Which is great. I mean, it shows that my message is getting across and people are interested in Finland. But it's still, that's not a pitch. That's like an email you send to your friend. And just because I know this certain blogger's friend or have worked with him or her, it doesn't mean that we are friends yet. So professionalism, please, and thank you. And then my favorite, a very detailed professional pitch which has all the information, your name and your blog and your statistics, your media kit is attached. Hopefully your media kit is beautiful and perfect. It shows that you've done your research, you know what you want, you hopefully are willing to negotiate about it, but you know the specific scope that you're looking after. You might want to do food or adventure, but you know the time frame and maybe the area and a little bit of the theme. And it's, I mean, perfect. Yeah, and it also has what you can offer. And this is basically what always impresses me about pitches. It also already has specifically, I can do this amount of blog posts, this amount of social media, and maybe a video, or maybe this and this, or maybe we can talk about me selling your photos, or I'm expecting you to pay me to come, which is okay too. But I just really like to have all the information there. I don't find it very interesting when I have to fish for information with emails like, so you want to come to Finland, but why exactly? I mean, it should be stated there. Okay. So then, those are the things that happen before the trip. And then during the trip, well, first off, meeting the blogger. I mean, at this point, you should already know the blogger and have a relationship with him or her, but still meet with him or her, because everyone is more likely to do good and likes to work with people that they already know. Then tailored program. Quite often it happens that you have a budget blogger that ends up going to luxury resorts, which is fun for the blogger, I guess. But it doesn't really suit anyone. It doesn't really work well with anyone because no one is getting anything out of it. So the program should be tailored towards what the influencers actually work with. For example, a lot of Instagrammers don't really focus on hotels that much. So it makes zero sense to put them in luxury resorts unless specifically discuss that, okay, we're going to be featuring this resort. And then, of course, perfectly. Then Wi-Fi. It's like oxygen for influencers. I'm not joking. And even in Finland, in the promised land of internet, it still happens that the areas don't know well enough that internet is the key. And if you want influencers to work the way they do, they have to have internet. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. And speaking of time, it's really important to have enough time for the influencers. I think it's quite difficult sometimes for DMOs because for us, it would be a lot easier to pack the day full of activities to make sure that they get all the necessary info and they see all the most exciting things. But for a lot of influencers, it's actually way better to have them have more free time to explore independently, do the things that they're interested with, maybe more like a tip list of these are the things that we think you might like. Let me know if you want to organize something bigger together, but otherwise, here's a travel card, have fun. Yeah. So, the after the trip things. As for posts. Well, first off, as for posts should be share the posts. I don't know why I wrote that. But basically, I think if you're not sharing the content that the influencers have created, you're only doing 50% of the work. If you're not sharing the content, you're just letting it sit there, and it's going to die soon, no one ever saw it. Whatever you did, it's kind of waste. So share the content. It's something that, I mean, I should definitely improve on, but so should everyone else. But then the second, results. Ask for the results. I think results should be something that the influencers send to you by themselves because they want to share the great things that they've done. But still, what I'm especially interested in seeing how the readers reacted to the influencers' posts. I mean, obviously, I try to follow the channels as much as possible. But I've heard, for example, that especially Germans, they don't really comment on blog posts, whereas they're more likely send direct email to the writer. And those are the things that I need to know about. Has someone said that, oh, I really want to go to Finland because you wrote such a nice post about it? Or has someone asked specific information of, oh, I saw you went to Lapland. How was it? Did you do this? Was it expensive? Did you like it? Because those are the things that bloggers can do to show their own worth. And I'm surprised that a lot more influencers don't do it already. But that's something, because I need that so that I can prove to my supervisors that what we're doing with influencers, it actually matters, and it actually has some significance. Generally speaking, I feel like these are some themes that I've noticed recently, especially money. A lot more influencers are asking for money to come to destinations. I'm willing to pay for a campaign, not so much for a trip, because in my opinion, a campaign has specific goals, it has targets, it has different deliverables that we can discuss on, whereas the trip is just a trip and I might get something out of it or I don't. I'm also more likely to pay for an influencers where we can agree on specific photos that we get out of it or videos. I don't really like to pay just so that someone would visit Finland, but the things that I can pay off is the deliverables or the results. Expectations, like I said in the pitch part, if the result or if the expectations aren't there, I find it very confusing because I think things like what we can offer, what we want from the blogger, is there money involved, those should be discussed very, very early on, just so that there isn't any confusion of what we maybe promised to cover or what we didn't promise to cover at all. Because that has happened. I think we've done something very well, and then I get an email saying like, oh, but here's our invoice. Like, we never talked about that. We would never promise to pay you any money. But the last thing that I want to point out is team involvement. Quite often, even today, the people who work with bloggers or influencers, they aren't involved in social media at all, which is very alarming in my opinion, especially these days when sharing the content is so important, so that the person who has the relationship with the influencer and has agreed on things with the influencer doesn't really follow through to the social media part. And the person who is in charge of the channels doesn't really know what has been agreed with the blogger or influencer. So that's why, for example, the Instagram trip that we did, I didn't go there, and instead we sent my colleague who is in charge of our Instagram account, just so that she'll get more knowledge about how to work with the channel and how to best collaborate with the content that the influencers are providing, just so that everyone gets as much out of it as possible. I think I'm done.